Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Cato and I'm so glad you're joining me again today. Today's video is full of techniques and tips and tricks, so make sure you watch the whole thing because at the end I will show you also how to decorate an envelope with a die as well. I had never done that before, but I really like how it turned out. Now, as you've seen in the title of this video, I am making a transparent card, and for that I am starting with a laminating sheet or a laminating pouch. Now, of course, you could just use acetate to fold a see-through card base, but I want to embed some glitter into the plastic. So I'm just laminating a laminator pouch with some glitter inside. Make sure this goes through your laminator smoothly. Put a folded in half sheet of copy paper on the sealed edge of your laminating pouch. Make sure your laminator is hot enough and then it should go through smoothly and without problem. Now, if you didn't add that shim of white copy paper, your laminating pouch could get stuck in your laminator, so make sure you add that. It adds a little bit of stability to the plastic. Now I trimmed that down to 4 1/4 by 11 inches for a top folding A2 size note card, and I'm just going to fold this in half. You probably should score it in half, but I never score my card bases before folding this. That feels like a really dirty confession I just made, but it's true. I never score them beforehand. I just fold them with a bone folder and it's worked for me, so... I did fold that and scored it once and then turned it inside out and scored it again, and that makes a nicer, flatter fold for this card base. Now onto my focal points. I made 2 of the same things and I'm only going to show you one of them. I die cut the base layer of the Floral corner die set by A Pocket Full of Happiness twice from watercolor cardstock. This is Canson Montval 200 GSM watercolor cardstock, and I am coloring on that base layer with some inks by Pinkfresh Studio. You can use any coloring medium for this, you can even just ink blend onto it, but I want it to be just a little bit more precise, so I'm painting the inks on. This is really easy to do. You just smoosh the ink pad or the ink cube down onto a slick surface. And my slick surface is always just a laminated sheet of white cardstock. It is great for watercolor techniques like this one, or for ink smooshing, or even for ink blending. It's a nice smooth surface to start on. So I really recommend you just laminate a sheet of white cardstock. It's super cheap and it's a great alternative to some of those expensive crafting surfaces out there. Now I'm making sure that I blend a couple of colors together for these larger areas. For the berries, I just used yellow. I like a pop of yellow. And for all the flowers, I'm blending 2 colors together, and then for the leaves as well. I'm not at all being too precise about this because a lot of it will be covered by the outline layer. You can see the outline layer that I cut from white cardstock off to the side there, and that just shows me which part is where, and it gives me some directions on where to color. You can do this painting technique with almost any dye inks. The only inks I have found that I wouldn't do this with is the Concord and 9th inks. They stain the paper in a way that makes it almost impossible to blend the color out with water once you've put it down onto the paper. But these Pinkfresh Studio inks are absolutely fantastic for it. You can also use the re-inkers if you have them. Those will be more pigmented. Since I am using the ink cubes for this, I will add a lot of ink to my palette while coloring. Because every time I pick up some color with my brush, this color gets diluted with the water that's already on my brush. You need water to be able to pick up that little amount of ink. You don't have this problem with re-inkers. So when you're coloring with inks from the ink cube, like I'm doing here, and you see that you're not getting the pigmented results you want, just add more ink and make sure you layer on your colors in a couple of different steps. Now I die cut this outline layer twice from metallic silver cardstock. It's mirror cardstock, so it will add a lot of shine to my card. And it will also match the glitter in my card base nicely. Now for all the gluing on this card, I'm using my favorite tip. It's not the tip on the bottle, though that is very fine. I am using the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, so it is a very precise tip. But the tip I can give you for gluing intricate dies to your projects like this is you just cover it in glue. Don't be too fussy with it. It doesn't matter how much you put on. You just tap it off once you've covered it all in glue. You tap it off onto a scrap piece of cardstock. Just press it to the cardstock gently. This will lift off any excess glue. Some might seep out of the sides at this stage, but it doesn't matter because it's not on your project. And that will leave plenty of glue on the back of your die to glue it onto your card or onto the base layer as I'm doing here. So it will be plenty sticky enough, but you won't have any excess glue seeping out of the sides. Now, why is this so important for this project? It's because we're gluing things onto a slick surface later. I will be gluing all of these die cuts onto the acetate or the transparent card base, and any excess glue that you have then will seep out of the sides, and it will be so noticeable, and you don't need a lot of glue to glue things on acetate. And yes, I am using Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, even though I'm gluing onto a slick surface. I'll explain why in a minute. I'm just going to explain what I'm doing right now first. I die cut this base layer 6 more times out of thick white cardstock because I want some space to write my messages on. It's not going to be a lot of space, and you will have to be a little bit creative on how you write on these. But by gluing all of these dies right behind the flowers on the front, I create some white space inside my card that doesn't interrupt the transparent design. It will still leave all of the space next to the flowers transparent, completely see-through all the way through the back of the card. I first glued onto the inside, that's the front of the card. Then I glued on to the back of the card, the very back of the card, and then I am gluing on to the inside on the back panel of the card. I hope that makes sense. What you're seeing now is the inside that you would normally write your message on, and that's what I'm gluing on last. You can see through this card, obviously, so it's really easy to glue things together and match them up nicely. But yeah, if you work in this order, that will give you the least trouble to line things up. So it's front to the inside of the front panel, then the outside of the back panel, and then the inside of the back panel. And you can see I am going really slowly here to make sure that it adheres nicely, and I'm being really gentle with it to not shift it around too much. Now for a sentiment, I die cut a couple of alpha dies. These are the header Uppercase die set by Pinkfresh Studio, and I die cut each letter 3 times out of thick white cardstock, and I'm layering those together with Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. I love stacking die cuts together, especially for sentiments. It doesn't take up that much extra time, and it does make a whole lot of a difference. It makes them stand out nicely from your card design, especially if your design is as busy as mine. Now to make it easy to line these up on my card, I'm actually lining them up first on my grid mat, and then I am putting a piece of purple tape over them to pick them up all at once. I can then put glue on the back of them and center them all together over my card base and press them down. I will adhere that glue down, press them down for a bit, and then I will gently tear that purple tape away. You should probably let it dry a little bit longer than I did, but I have no patience. So what you end up with is a transparent card with a lot of white space inside to write your message on. Now I'm folding my A2 size envelope with my We Are Memory Keepers 123 punch board out of Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock. And to decorate it, I am using that same floral corner die. I thought it would fit nicely on the flap of an envelope, and indeed it did. So I'm taping that in place with some purple tape just to make sure it doesn't shift in my die cutting machine. And I will dry emboss this in my die cutting machine, making sure I leave that flap open so it doesn't emboss through all of the card. I did that for the top and bottom flap of this envelope, and then I can just adhere that all together with my Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. I love that I'm able to decorate my envelopes with my dies now. That just opens up a lot of options, and I hope to do it again in the future. I really like how this project turned out. A lot of rainbow on the card, a lot of colors, and a lot of shine from that mirror cardstock and the glitter as well. It's a really fun card. I really love making transparent cards, and the envelope turned out a little bit too elegant for it maybe, but I still like that as well. I hope you liked it too. If you did, make sure to like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to read them. As always, you can find all of the products I used in the description below if you're curious, including all of the ink colors. And on your way there, you will pass the subscribe button, so make sure you click that as well if you want to see more of my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.